Hi scientists! Get those scientific hats on and get ready for another lesson. You're not going to believe with the 6 inches of snow we just got, the next topic is going to be on hail. But you know what? They're kind of similar, sorta. But before we do that, let's talk about yesterday's questions and the answers for yesterday's questions. So the first question was, when is it summer in Australia? Remember, Australia is in the southern hemisphere, and that was C, December. The next question was, which of the following is a true statement? And the true statement was A, the northern hemisphere is above the equator. That's where we live. Number 3, how long does it take for the earth to travel around the sun? It takes D, 1 year. And the fourth question was, why is the northern hemisphere usually hot in the summer? The answer is B, because the northern hemisphere is tilted closer to the sun in the summer. And that was yesterday's answers about hemispheres. Today's topic, like I said, is hail. And I drew a little picture for you. So here we go. So lesson 9 is on hail. And remember Belle the weather girl? She taught us a little bit about this, so you might remember some of these things. So this right here, this cloud right here is called a thunder cloud. Isn't that pretty cool? That's a cool name. I just really like that name. Okay, and then hail happens when it's warmer weather. And in order to have hail, you need to have 60 to 100 mile per hour warm winds. That needs to be happening. What happens is the little droplets that would come down like rain typically, they get pushed up by those winds. They get bounced back up at the top of the cloud where they freeze. And then they start to fall down a little bit, and then the winds push them up again, and then they start to fall down. Each time they fall down, they freeze a little bit, and so they kind of look, if you were to cut open a hailstone, you would see that a hailstone looks like a tree because it has several layers in it. Isn't that fascinating? I think weather is just fascinating. Let's learn more about hail. Imagine climbing to the top of a skyscraper and throwing off a chunk of ice the size of a baseball. Who would do that? Anyways, a chunk of ice that size falling that distance would do serious damage. Now imagine being on the ground when somebody throws down not one chunk of ice, but thousands of chunks of ice. That is what it would be like to get caught in a hailstorm. Warm weather, strong winds, and thunderclouds make up the recipe for hail, a kind of frozen snow. Hail forms when warm air rises quickly into a cold thundercloud. Strong winds push the droplets of moisture into the air to the top of the cloud, where they freeze into ice crystals. The winds bounce these tiny pieces of ice around and around inside the cloud. Each time the crystals move up and down, they get coated with another layer of ice. The ice grows larger and larger until it's too heavy for the wind to hold up, and it finally falls to the ground as hail. When hail falls, it can be very dangerous. I would go inside. Go inside if you get in a hailstorm. These solid pieces of ice fall from the sky at speeds of, you're not going to believe this, 100 miles per hour. Pieces of hail called hailstones are usually about the size of peas. Many melt before they even hit the ground. But hailstones can be as big as golf balls or even baseballs. A storm must have winds from 60 to 100 miles per hour to allow these giant hailstones to form. The largest hailstone ever recorded was 7 inches. My hand is 6 inches long. So a hailstorm was 7 inches long. So 6 plus about 1 more inch. 7 inches wide. That's almost as big as a volleyball. A volleyball bouncing on your head would not feel good. Inside a hailstone. The inside of hailstones are made of layers of rings of ice, kind of like the layers of an onion. I didn't think about onions. Onions pretty good. That's like a tree, onions. Yeah. The rings help scientists understand how hail is formed. Each one shows a different stage in the hailstone's growth. That was kind of a tongue twister, the hailstorm stone. I was having a hard time. So if you don't have your journal, go get your journal and number it to 4. You can just call this hail, H-A-I-L, and number to 4. Don't forget to date it. Here's your questions for today. Number 1. Which conditions are necessary for hail to form? Is it A, thunderclouds, B, warm weather, C, strong winds, D, all of these above? Number 2. How does hail grow? A, it rolls around like a snowball. That would be fun. You probably did that today. B, it gets coated with many layers of ice. C, the ice crystals multiply inside the cloud. Or D, it gets frozen into a giant ball. Number 3. Hailstones are usually as big as, usually, okay? A, peas, B, golf balls, C, baseballs, or D, volleyballs. Usually. Most common. Number 4. A hailstone's rings tell scientists A, how large it is, B, how old it is, C, how fast the wind was moving, or D, how it was formed. Good luck answering those, and I'll give you the answers to our next lesson. That'll be lesson number 10. You have a fun time playing out in that snowy weather that we got. All right? See you later.